So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how my OCD impacted my wedding day and the days leading up to my wedding. I got married about a month ago in September, and OCD definitely showed up a little bit, which is really common when it comes to like big moments of change or transitions or anything like that. OCD loves to show up. So the days, weeks leading up to the wedding, my OCD was kind of acting up in a bunch of different ways. The first one was with the weather. And obviously that's something that like everybody worries about. But the thing with the weather is you can't control it. And so I was worrying and worrying that it was going to rain on our wedding day because the ceremony was outside, and that the specific worry was that I would walk down the aisle and my dress would be all muddy and dirty. It would ruin the pictures. I would look unhappy. I would look bad. That was a really big core fear of mine. And I would check the weather like compulsively, like a week out. Did the 10-day weather, checked every day, and it went back from rain, cloudy, it would be 70 degrees, then it'd be like 50 degrees, and it just kept going back and forth. So obviously there was no certainty that it would turn out the way I wanted to. And I know this is probably something that like a lot of people leading up to their wedding worry about, but when you have OCD, it tends to make it worse. So I was asking for reassurance a lot from my dad, my partner, saying like, what if it rains? Like, as if they had any control of the weather. So that was one worry. Another worry was that my dress wasn't going to fit me right, because I had been working out really hard up to the wedding, but like a week or two out, I stopped because I just wanted to relax and like kind of enjoy the last moments leading up to it. And I had this fear that for some reason I was going to gain all the weight back or lose all the muscle that I had, and that I wouldn't fit into my dress, and that it wouldn't zip up and the day would be like ruined. So that was another worry. Another worry, and this one was really specific too, was that the medication I'm on makes my mouth very dry, and so I'm constantly having to like drink a lot of water if I'm talking to people for like an extended period of time. And so I was worried that when we read our vows that my mouth would get so dry and I like wouldn't be able to talk, or I would look really stupid, or it would just be like bad and like I wouldn't be able to get my vows out, and like everyone would be looking at me and laughing, or like I said, like I would have to like get water. But then I was like, what if they're recording our vows? Like I don't want to just be drinking water. And so that was like a really, really big worry of mine. And what I ended up like telling myself was that I was either gonna chew a piece of gum like down the aisle and kind of like hide it in my mouth. I was gonna have like water up there with the person who was marrying us, or like I would have a mint in my mouth and then or gum and just spit it out like right before we got there. And so that's what I was planning on doing, and that was kind of, I guess, the compulsion that I was gonna do. So that was another worry. And then the day came and the weather was not anything that they said it was going to be. It turned out to be sunny and like 80 degrees. And although we wished it was a little bit cooler, we like could not complain because it was like a perfect day. And so the day came and I had to get there at like 9:30 in the morning to get ready for hair and makeup. I was the last one who was getting my hair and makeup done. And so something that I do when my anxiety or my OCD is acting up, I tend to shut down and just like not talk and kind of like ruminate and like replay thoughts and worries in my head. So that was happening a little bit, and the girls around me were all like very talkative and we were chatting, and I think it might have been a little bit obvious that I was worried or anxious because I got quiet for a while. And somebody actually told me this like after we got married, that they said like, oh, like I could tell that you were in your head a little bit. And I'm trying not to like beat myself up about showing up because it's my wedding day. Like everybody is going to be nervous on their wedding day, and then when you have OCD, it only like elevates it 10 times more. But the big thing for me was really trying to stay present, because everybody told me that this day would go by so quickly and that it would be over before I knew it. And I really wanted to enjoy it in any way that I could. And something that also my OCD tends to do is pick apart like every single thing about myself, especially in pictures. So that was another one of my worries, that I was going to hate every single photo taken of me and I wasn't going to have any that I really liked. And a big compulsion for that was constantly asking my best friend, like, to look at our photographer's photos and be like, are these good? Like, do you think our photos will turn out good? And I did that a lot, and I kept going back to look at their photos to make sure that like I made the right decision. But it was like constant. It was all the time, and I did it to, alleviate the anxiety that I was having. But obviously with OCD, the thing we know is that no matter how much you like do a compulsion, and it might help for a little bit, but it's not going to help long term, because compulsions fuel the OCD cycle. So OCD thrives when we give into our compulsions, and the way to start the OCD is to stop the compulsions. So for me, that would be not asking for reassurance or not checking like Instagram at the photos or the weather. And something that I learned in my therapy was that if you can't completely stop a compulsion, it's best to try to delay it for a little bit, and that kind of helps break the cycle. But so I got ready, was ready to walk down the aisle, and I ended up drinking a lot of water and like having a piece of gum in my mouth and like spitting it out right before I walked out of like the building into the ceremony. And I got up there, my partner read his vows first, and I was really, like I said, trying to be present and not let OCD get caught up and miss like such a big moment, because I really wanted to hear them. And they did, and it was beautiful. And then I read my vows, and my mouth did get dry, but I was able to get through it and talk through it, and I didn't feel like I sounded stupid or like I needed to like chug water. Like I was actually okay, and I got through it. And so the wedding went on. It was a beautiful night. I was really present. I was able to enjoy every moment. And that was just because that I was using the skills that I had been taught in therapy, which is knowing that the more I keep worrying about something, I know the stronger it's going to get. And of course, it's normal for OCD to come up. And that's why I'm giving myself grace and not beating myself up about maybe giving into certain compulsions, because it's my wedding day. Like, of course, it is going to be a stressful day. But I was able to use my skills for the remainder of the night, like after the ceremony, to really just focus on talking to people and being with my partner and enjoying the night. And I really felt good for like my wedding. Like, it did go by really fast, and I do feel like I missed a lot of it, but I was really able just to be present, and OCD wasn't like, while it was happening, really wasn't a big part of the wedding. And I owe that to exposure therapy, because that's what got me to where I am today. Of course, OCD is going to show up every now and then. Like, no matter how far along you are in recovery, it's normal for OCD to pop up. But because of all the practice I did over time with exposure therapy, it allowed me to be like one of the best possible versions of myself when the wedding day came. And although, I had little flare-ups here and there, I was able to really just let go and surrender and be like, I'm gonna have thoughts pop up. Maybe I don't feel good about myself, or maybe I'm worried I look stupid, but I'm not gonna let that take away from me enjoying one of the biggest days of my life. And it's so funny because in hindsight, everything turned out fine, which just goes to show you that OCD makes everything like so scary in your head, but it's really not that scary, and half the time your worries don't even come true. And so, like I said, the weather turned out to be fine. The dress fit perfectly. I did my vows and I was fine. And then the last thing that I talked about that I was worried about was the photos. So we got the photos like a sneak peek back a couple days later, and I loved the photos. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel myself picking apart every single thing about me, which is crazy because I always tend to do that in the past. And again, I really just credit exposure therapy and recovery for just getting me so far in my journey that I'm at a point now where OCD doesn't crazily affect my life anymore, to the point where I can't enjoy it. And that's like the biggest piece of advice I could give to someone who's dealing with any kind of OCD, is that the right therapy is key. And ERP, exposure response prevention, is the most effective treatment for OCD. It's specialized for OCD because it targets, the compulsions and the anxiety, and it helps you break free from the black and white thinking, and, really leaning into the fear, leaning into your worries, knowing that even if they do happen, you're still going to be fine. Like, that's the moral of the story. No matter what happens, even if what you're scared about happens, like, you're going to be fine. You've recovered and you have bounced back from everything you went through in your life. Like, you will be okay. Like, you're resilient and you are strong. And even if it turns out and your biggest fear comes true, you're going to be okay. But the big part is, like I said, realizing that OCD makes it so much bigger and scarier in your head. And half the time, like, your worries don't even come true. They don't happen. Like, I spent so much time worrying about the weather and it turned out to be a perfect day. And so if this sounds like you, someone who ruminates and has a lot of anxiety and what ifs, I really recommend going to nocd.com, and they will connect you with a therapist who can help you on your journey of OCD and get the right help that will actually help your OCD. I hope this video was helpful, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Bye.